Open, you scabrous filth!" screamed the lieutenant, her perpetual scowl now slaked with a fine sheen of sweat. I heaved in another breath, my hands on my knees, and cursed. "Yes, Lieutenant, sir." Reaching down, I picked up my lasgun. In the dark, the scarring that betrayed where the Imperial Eagle had once rested stood proud on the casing. The smell of the whole ship was making me sick, an ugly gestalt of burned metal, rotting green matter, and something yeasty. As I moved through the corridor, the red alarm, all hands to battle stations, started to roar as the lights dimmed. Inertia, not fully compensated by the grav plating, made my stomach lurch as the ship made rapid, violent course corrections. I remember being told when I'd signed up that I'd adapt to artificial gravity quickly. After 3 years, my inner ear still told me I was standing on my head every time there was a course correction. The CQB, close quarter battle alarm, started screaming as I entered, another vast cavern in the belly of this ship. A ship that had become our tomb. Then the noise came, a hideous booming, rending noise that vibrated through the ship. It came closer as more than a dozen of us in the giant space hit the decking. The noise was staggering as the air heated several degrees in the space between my hammering heartbeats. Someone dragged me to my feet, whispering something in my ear. It was just unintelligible vibrations from his body to mine until my comnet clicked back to life in my ear. "It's them! It's them, come on!" I found my feet and looked around, meeting the eyes of a stranger, no surprise on a ship of 17,000 souls. He had augmetics, good ones, in place of his natural eyes. In my panic, everything slowed down. He had scars around his eyelids and no lashes, the tear ducts reduced to withered grey pinpricks, dimly illuminated by his glowing green pupils. "What's happening? What's that noise?" I shouted over the banging and squealing of metal. It was unlike anything I'd ever heard. But almost everything I'd seen over the last 20 standard months was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. "It's them," he said, his voice hoarse over the vox. I looked, following his pointing finger. At the furthest end of the empty chamber there was a wall of smoke and steam. I looked back at the other trooper. He'd backed up against the nearest bulkhead, a dark patch spreading against the grey of his uniform trousers. "What is it?" I asked again, my training coming back to me a little. I raised and charged my weapon, muttering the old prayer my grandmother had favoured at times of high stress. Unintelligible shouts filled the vox as the screeching of lasfire filled the air with the stink of ozone. Then came the banging, and I understood. "Astartes," he said. Then I ran. Hello and welcome to the Law Lounge. I'm your host, my name is Tom, and I'm here to bestow upon you the knowing of great and wonderful things. Following the release of the fifth and final instalment of Astartes, a fan-made film with better production values than most of what is put out by Hollywood, the world has justifiably gone a little mad for 40k. As the geek, dollar, pound, insert currency of your choice here continues to grow, so does the popularity of 40k, along all other forms of cash burning and time eating. As such, with so many newcomers being drawn to 40k, it can be a bit of a struggle to get one's head around the world of the 41st millennium. So, today we will continue to explore the grimdark through the lens of that most excellent fan film. This is the second video in a series taking a look at what the Astartes actually are. The first video is linked down in the description. If you haven't already, and are new to 40k, you really should check that out before this one. We've earlier established that Astartes are servants of the Imperium of Man, genetically engineered super soldiers tasked with defending quadrillions of human souls across the galaxy. There is a squad of 5, and they're heading off to do a thing. Now, Astartes don't do the small jobs. They only get called in when the effluent has already hit the air recirculation device. So, you know something serious is going down. Their time is simply too valuable, and their numbers too small to be frivolously used. So the sergeant, the guy with 2 pistols instead of the single bigger weapon, and his 4 marines are in their Cestus assault ram, about to launch from their ship toward another. From the fact that it's called an assault ram, and the fact that they're armed to bear, we can establish that they're not exactly going in for pizza and beer, so let's watch. Right, that's pretty full on. Let's go back and have a look at the details. 40k does things that other games, shows, films and all that do, but in a massive, ridiculous way. Take the Cestus Assault Ram as an example. Its primary function is as a boarding device, as seen in this film. Now, boarding or breaching pods are seen in all kinds of science fiction, from Star Wars to Babylon 5 and, my personal favourite, The Expanse. On a side note, all 4 seasons of The Expanse are currently available on Amazon Prime, and yes, I'm open to sponsorship deals, Jeff. The Expanse is, in my opinion, the best hard science fiction ever. Watch it. Back to it. So, boarding or breaching pods are used to deliver soldiers to an enemy ship. It launches and either flies ballistic or under its own power, and when it makes contact with the enemy ship, it either cuts or blasts its way inside. On the low-tech end, you have the pods used by the OPA in The Expanse, which are basically just shipping crates with rockets and explosives attached. On the other end, we have the Imperium, which has 3 main vehicles for this, and they're all just obscene. The Cestus is the middle one in the range. It's a heavily armoured, giant torpedo designed to get in fast to deliver its angry babies into the target ship intact. It can actually hold a full squad of 10, but they don't seem overly worried and just have half a squad in this case. You can see here that the Cestus is initially escorted by a fighter and 2 missile-catching drones to protect it, also deploying its own weapons to ensure it can get to its target. I'm not aware of the drones being named or detailed anywhere, but I could be mistaken, and I'm easy to be told otherwise by anyone viewing this in the comments down below. As it gets close, the Ram goes from being a small ship into 40k breaching gear, deploying something called a Magna Melter, which is basically an infrared heat laser, to melt, see, more than just a clever name, and soften the hull as it smashes home, burying its way deep into the guts of the ship. It turns out, fascinatingly enough, that they're actually a kind of melter weapon in real life, though they're enormous things that need to be mounted in battleships because of the amount of support and power they need. But they can do this. So, at the moment, it's pretty much indistinguishable from a laser, but it can be said that in M3 we have precursors to melter guns, which is nice. The Cestus needs this kind of thing because between armour, shields and weapons, the ships in 40k are nigh impregnable, and can take a huge amount of punishment. But as a wise man once said,
"Give me 10 good men and some climbing spikes. I'll impregnate the bitch."
And Astartes count for at least 2 men each. I guess the Ram is a good stand-in for climbing spikes. So they smash their way into the ship, the missile catchers doing their job and tanking a stack of hits. Inside, the targets of their action are rebel or traitor militarum. We don't know why the Marines are going after them, but they're so obviously outmatched it's unreal. The way the Astartes smash through these first few guardsmen is almost comical. It really shows off just how deadly these guys are. The guardsmen they're up against are well trained and prepared, but they don't have the faintest chance. These first few seconds really give us a neat little intro into how capable the Marines are. First, we see through the eyes of one of them, almost certainly our sergeant called Corin, if you were wondering. One of the things, beside the genetic augmentations, inch-thick armour and super weapons, that make Astartes so capable in combat is the suite of combat assistance systems in their helmets. This shot gives us just a taste of their abilities, showing what is probably infrared heating signatures over an ultrasonic view, showing the rough outlines of their target and the area that they're in. The helmet itself usually contains the vast majority of a suit of armour's actual combat-related systems. When it comes to an Astartes' ability to see or perceive their environment, there are 2 main systems built into their armour, the Auspex and the Auger. An Auspex is usually found in handheld form, and is also called a surveyor, multi-scanner or simply a scanner. It's basically a tricorder from Star Trek, a combined motion sensor, environmental sensor, and can detect emissions across most of the electromagnetic spectrum. And, see through walls. The Auger, or Auger, is a bit less nailed down. They usually include radar, lidar, sonar, chem sniffers, and spectroscopes. It's all designed to detect and analyse whatever is nearby and feed it into the eyes of the Astartes. The Auspex is less direct, enabling a Marine to do things like know what's behind walls or understand environmental data, where the Auger is more direct, allowing for an understanding of what is nearby. All that data is accessible full-time to the Marine, which explains why they're so deadly. We'll explore the armour and augmentations of Astartes in much greater depth in future videos. Where the Sergeant here has a small, semi-automatic bolt pistol, I say small, all things being relative, the other guys have full-blown assault guns, bolt guns or bolters. And, well, we can say they're pretty effective. It goes a long way to demonstrate the effectiveness of both the Astartes and their weapons. The bolts wreck whatever they touch, But the Marines themselves are cool, focused, and completely calm in battle. They just get on with it. One shot, one kill, no wasted ammo. If you saw my first video, you remember that dirty PAW 20mm direct fire grenade launcher that does this to steel doors. And you've seen what it does to Militarum now. These guys are wearing armour, but they might as well not be when it comes to bolt rounds. This really is a good illustration of the vulnerability and near irrelevance of normal people in 40k. It's called Grimdark for a reason, because in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. Militarum guardsmen like these guys are just people, just normal dudes in a situation that has gotten out of hand. They have no choice in it, and they're facing down demigods that they can't hurt, that don't care about them, and will end them without a thought. That is Grimdark. This is a pretty short video, longer than the first, granted, but it does a lot to illustrate the disparity of power in the 39th millennium. Really no better in the 40th or 41st, to be quite honest, but there you have it. There's not a great deal else to be said about this video. Its scope is pretty narrow beyond the boarding ram and the very brief massacre in the first room, so we move on. If you have any questions, corrections or similar on anything covered in this video, please do let me know below. Next up, episode 3. Please like, comment, share, subscribe and all that great stuff. It's a brand new channel and any support you can give would be hugely appreciated. You're all truly wonderful. All hail the Omnissiah and I'll see you all soon. This is Tom for the Lore Lounge.